Welcome back to our project management app tutorial series. In this third installment, we're diving into the heart of the app, the projects module. We'll learn how to build fully functional CRUD operations that bring your app to life, clean, responsive, and ready for real-world use. Let's jump in and make your project manager manage projects. So let's quickly look at what we're gonna build in this video, right? So this is our staff login. So we're gonna select a staff member. So let's select Mark Johnson. And Mark Johnson's password is pos12345. So, okay, it's correct. So let's log in, right? So this is the home screen, and this is where we're going to put the overview screen, or also known as the dashboard, right? But in this video, we're going to be working on projects. So in our system, we only have two projects, right? So here we can press add project so that we can add our project. So since we're showing an example, let's just call our project example. Then description, let's just say demonstration. Start date, let's just select today, the 4th. End date, let's just say the 6th of August. Press OK. Project status, let's set it to in progress. And let's add. Are you sure we want to add this project? Yes. Right. So we can also update, right? These should update after every 8 to 10 seconds, right? So now we can see our our example project is shown here, right? So let's click here and update. So let's change this to update 01. Okay, so now this is update 01. This is going to update in no time. And the other thing we can do, right? It's updated here, is we can delete, right? So let's delete this. Are you sure we want to delete this project? Yes, right. And it's already deleted here. So this is what we're going to be doing in this video, right? So get your text editors ready and let's code. So let's proceed from where we left off in the previous video. If you want the link to this template folder, it's available in the video description. So first things first, let's run this app and see where we left off in the previous video, right? Okay, our splash screen is looking good. Here we have our staff login screen. So let's select a random user, right? So the users we created using the dummy data Python function, right? We just set all the passwords to pos12345 like this. So let's log in. So we created our home screen and this is where we ended. Looking at this, right, we might need to expand this side by a little bit. Then we can change the color here. We can set it to black, right? Then we can create our projects and our stuff so that it's going to be easier when we're working on these here, so that we can work on each individual project, adding team members, tasks, comments, and attachments and whatnot, right? So let's minimize this. Then to proceed, let's open our terminal, right? Inside here, let me collapse this one here, right? Open views. So we're gonna use this create screen.py file, right? So it's gonna create all our screens same way we created home, auth, login, and splash, right? So inside our terminal, we're gonna say cd views, and once we're inside our views folder, we're gonna say Python create underscore screen.py, and we're gonna call our screen stuff, right? Press up arrow, get rid of stuff, and create projects like this. So let me minimize this. So let me just call it downloads like this. Let's open home file, like it's inside our views folder here, right? So let's open home.kv. So here we have our sidebar. Let's up it up to 150 display pixels and see how this looks. And before we proceed, let's open our app folder, then open any.py file. So we need to comment the first three screens here so that we can just open and go straight to our home screen, right? So that we don't have to waste a lot of time logging in and seeing our splash screen for 10 seconds each and every time. So let's run this. Okay, this is looking much better. Let's navigate to our widgets folder and open patterns.py. So let's scroll upwards. Okay, we're already up. Let's get rid of this bold statement. So for now, let's just comment it out. Run it again. Um, let's leave it like this for now. Let's leave it like this for now. Okay. Let's try and make this color, because I'm seeing this like the theme color, right? But we were supposed to set this to black in the previous video. So I'm just gonna minimize this. Go back, open home.kv, scroll downwards. Okay. This should say text color. So there was a typo there. Okay. So this should make our icons black. So let's run it again. Okay. So our icons are looking much better. So now let's start working on I think we should start with projects, then staff. Okay, let's start with projects, then work on staff. Get rid of these patterns.py. Okay, we're not gonna we might need it, so let's leave it here. Let's open projects, then projects.kv. For now, we're gonna need projects.py later, but for now, let's just leave projects.kv. So let's give this some spacing of 20 display pixels, and let's copy this and let's just duplicate it. Change this to heading 20 display pixels, right? So inside our main box layout, I'm gonna put a box layout, right? And we're gonna get this box layout a size int y of none and some height. And let's set it to 40 display pixels like this. And let's give it some spacing. Our spacing is going to be, let's set it to 20 display pixels, right? So inside this first box layout, we're gonna put a title, then we're gonna put our custom button, and we might put a search box, right? So let's start with our title, right? Our screen title. So here we're just gonna say MD label. Then we're gonna say text. Text is going to be projects. So let's just say projects list, right? Then let's give this some styling. So here we're gonna say font style, and we're gonna set this to title, and our raw, let's set it to medial. Let's make it bold. So bold here is going to be true. Then let's give it some color, right? So that we don't so that it won't be just black. So let's say let's put a hashtag. So here let's say the color we used earlier was 4A4749. We used it in our previous video, right? When we were creating our labels. Let me just check. This color here. That's the one we're using. Okay. Next to our MD label, right? let's add what you call it. Let's add a search bar. So if you remember in the previous video, right, we created this layouts.py file and we created this custom box layout and custom float layout. So we're gonna use this custom box layout here. Like this. Let's give it some padding. So it's gonna have 10 display pixels padding on the left and right side. And the top and bottom, we're just gonna set it to 5 display pixels. Like this. Let's give this custom box layout some spacing. Let's set our spacing to 20 display pixels is going to be a lot. So let's try 10 display pixels. Excuse me. Let's it should have let's look at a custom box layout first. So it already has a background color. So let's not add a background color. Let's not add the canvas dot before line, right? So let's leave it like this for now. So inside this custom box layout, let's add a float layout. And we're gonna say size int underscore x is going to be none, and the width is going to be self dot height, right? So it's going to be a square. And inside this float layout, we need to add an MD icon. So the icon here is going to be, I think it's magnify. Like this. And let's give it a position int. So here we're gonna say pause int. Let's put some curly braces here. Inside here we're gonna say center underscore x. It's going to be horizontally, right? Then let's say center underscore y. It's going to be 0.5. So this places our MD icon at the center of our float layout. So next to our float layout, we need to add what can we call it? So for now, right? Let's just put an empty box layout. Then we're gonna get back to it once we add a button here. So now let's add our button. So we called our button custom button. Let's give it a size int underscore x of none and some width. Let's give it some width of let's try 110 display pixels first. Then if we need to edit it, we're gonna edit it later. So let's give it an icon. Let's just say plus, because we're going to be using this button to add our projects, right? So let's give it some text. Here we're gonna say add project, like this. Let's give it an on press function, right? So here on press, so this is what's going to happen when we press this button. So here we're just gonna say root dot let's just say open underscore add underscore model, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to have an option where we click a button and a model opens up, right? Same way we did with our notification icons and our projects navigation tabs, right? So that when you press it, a model opens up, right? So once this model opens up, we're going to be able to use it to add and update our projects and our staff members, right? Our teams. We're gonna do the same for attachments, comments, and our tasks, right? So underneath this one, let's just add the empty box layout. Like this. Now let's open our any.py file. It's inside our app folder here, right? So let's support our screen. So let me duplicate this twice. Control D, change this to projects. Let's change this one to projects with a lowercase. Then this is going to be stuff. Nice. So now let's open home.kv. So let's change this screen here to projects, and let's change this to stuff like this. So let's run this and see how our project screen is looking, right? Okay. We need to push this upwards. Okay. Minimize this. Let's open our projects.kv file, right? So this and this needs to be tabbed inside one tab. So let's run it again. Let's open our project screen. Okay. Let's edit our button here so that it's rounded at the edges. So let's navigate to our widgets folder and open buttons.py. Right. Where do we have our custom button? Here. Okay. Here, right? We need to say theme underscore elevation underscore level, like this. So when I set this to custom, right? So we're just gonna do the same thing we did when we're creating our custom box layout and custom plot layout, right? So that we're gonna give this button some rounded radius, right? So it's gonna look like a pill, and it's going to have some background shadows, right? So here we're just gonna say elevation underscore level. We're just gonna set this to 1, right? And here we need to say theme shadow effect. Theme shadow offset, right? Underscore offset. So we're gonna set this to custom also, like this. Then here we're gonna say shadow underscore offset. So this is going to be, let's say 0 for now, -1, like this. Now let's add some theme underscore shadow softness underscore softness. So we're gonna set this to custom also, like this. Then let's say shadow underscore softness. So when I set this to 1, like this, right? So I'm just gonna copy these here, then paste them here. So I'm gonna get rid of this background color here, this canvas dot before. Okay, let's leave the padding here. Excuse me. We might need to remove it. So let's get rid of the background color here also. So we're gonna need this color here, right? Let me Control D, Control C it. Then get rid of this line here. But I don't think we're gonna need this padding here, so let's get rid of it. Okay. So right here, what we need to do, right? We need to import a few things, same way we did when we were creating our custom, excuse me, custom box layout and custom float layout. So the first thing we're gonna need, right? So let me just select this, Control D so that I can just do this at the same time. So here when I say rectangular report behavior, rectangular, comma. The next one is common elevation, like this. Then now we're gonna need a button behavior, right? Then we have our box layout. And lastly, we're gonna need the background color behavior, like this, right? Once we've done this, right? Okay. Okay. Let me just do one at a time. So here, let's add an init function. So here, when I say define underscore init, so inside self here, right, you need to pass in some keyword arguments, right? So here, when I say star star keyword args, like this, press enter. Then when I say super init, then when I pass in self and our keyword arguments, keyword args, like this. Then once we've done this, we're just gonna say self.md underscore bg underscore color, like this. So we're gonna set this to that color we copied earlier, right? So here, let's put a hashtag at the start here. Now I'm just gonna copy this and paste it down here, like this. So let's run this and see how this looks. Seem to have an error here. Button behavior init takes one positional argument, but two were given. Oh, okay. So let's get rid of this here. Like this. So let's run it again. Let's open projects. Okay. So we have this, right? So now we need to make sure we have some radius here, right? So let's minimize this. Let's scroll up, right? So let's give this some radius. So inside you're just gonna say dp 20, like this. So I'm gonna copy this, paste it 3 more times. So let me copy this, Control C, excuse me, then paste it down here also, right? So let's run it again. Open our project screen. Okay, now our button is looking quite okay, right? So I'm just gonna add a few display pixels so that it doesn't look a little bit cramped like this. So let's minimize this. Where do we have our project safely? Okay, right here. So I'm just gonna up this to 125 display pixels, like this. That's much better. So the box layout we added right here, right? Just gonna change it to a custom box layout. So that it's going to be it's going to have rounded edges and it's going to have a background shadow behind it. So let's give this box layout some orientation, or custom box layout, right? So let's give it an orientation of vertical. And let's give it some padding. Should we say 20 or 10? Let's start with 10. If it doesn't look okay, we can just increase it, right? So inside here, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna add some table headers. Then we're just gonna leave some space where we can see the information that we're gonna fetch from our database, right? So here, let's add some labels. So here we're just gonna say box layout like this. Then let's give it a size in y of none, and our height. Let's put 40. I was thinking of 30, but 30 is going to be a lot smaller. It's not gonna look okay, right? So let's give this some padding. Left and right side, let's just give it 10 display pixels, and the top and bottom, let's just give it 0 display pixels like this. Let's give this some spacing of 10 display pixels. Okay, excuse me. And let's add it's not a background color as such, but we're just gonna create it like we're creating a background color, right? But let's just then we make it we give it a height of 1 display pixel, so it's just gonna appear as a line underneath our labels, right? So here let's say canvas dot before, here then you say color RGBA parentheses, inside parentheses, open quotes, hashtag. Yeah, let's put E9, E9, E9. So it's a gray color. Here let's say rectangle. Let's give it position. Position is going to be self dot pause. Then size is going to be, let's put it inside curly braces, right? Inside here, when I say self dot size index 0, right? Comma. So this is going to be at the bottom. Then our height is going to be 1 display pixel like this, right? Then underneath it, let's put a box layout like this. And inside this box layout, let's add a scroll wheel. Let's give it a bar width, right? So the bar width, we're just gonna set it to 0, because I want to make sure that we don't see the scroll bar whenever we're using the app, right? And just in case that doesn't work, let's set the bar color to transparent, so that we make sure if it appears, right, if you set the bar color to transparent, we're not gonna see it. So if the bar width is not set to 0, the bar color is going to be transparent, just like this. Now let's give this a size in y of none. Then our height is going to be self dot parent dot height. So it's going to be the height of this box layout here, since it's the parent box layout. So inside the scroll view, we cannot add many widgets. We can only add one widget. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna add a grid layout, right? So let's give it an ID, and ID is going to be projects underscore in underscore DB for database. Let's say underscore list like this. Excuse me. Then columns, we're just gonna set that to 1, so that we can have one project with this information displayed horizontally, right? Then excuse me, let's give this a size in y of none, and the height, we're gonna set it to self dot minimum underscore height like this. So the size of our grid layout is going to be determined by the number of projects we're going to display inside the grid layout, right? Once you're done with the bottom part, let's work on putting our labels, right? So our labels, which are going to act as our table heads, right? So to see which kind of information we're putting in here, let me just reduce the size of this. Let's open our create.py file. This is gonna split it to the right. Where do we have projects? Okay, here. Let me reduce the size of this. So inside this box layout, right, the one with the hydro photo display pixels, let's put some MD labels. So here, let's say MD label like this. And for now, let's not give these some width. Let's just create them, see how they look, and see if we need to adjust the width and whatnot, right? So here, let's say text. So the first one, we have our ID, right? So we're not going to display this ID. We're going to use this user ID to fetch our project. So we're not going to display it. So we're going to need a name, right? So here, let's say name. Let's give this some font style. Let's say label. Title may be too much, right? So let's put raw here. And our raw is going to be medium. Like this. Let's make it bold. So bold is going to be true. And let's give it some color. So let's make it gray. And then the information we're going to be displaying, we're going to make sure that it's black, right? So for color, let's not use E9. Let's say hashtag AD8A8C, like this. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we need to copy this and paste it 4 more times, right? So the last one was status. This is going to be and date. So let's make this one lowercase. Let's get rid of date. Let's just say end. Then this becomes start, and this becomes description, like this, right? So let's just run this and see how this looks. Okay, let's open projects. Okay, this is looking good. Everything is lined up perfectly on the right side. Same on the left side. Right. Let's minimize this. Um, before we can hmm, before we can determine the width of these things, right? We need to fetch the data, right? Then display it. So what we're gonna do here, I'm gonna need layouts. I don't think we're gonna need init in this one. Let's get rid of buttons. We're gonna need create. Let's navigate our widgets folder and open tables.py, right? So here we just want to put all our tables. The tables we're going to be using to display the information, right? So let's navigate back to projects.kv and let's just copy everything here. Here we forgot to put some space for our delete buttons. So I'm still thinking if we should like put the delete button next to the update button, or I can just make this whole thing clickable so that if we click it, we can be able to update. But to make this clickable seems much better, seems much more fun. So let's make sure that we can click it so that we can be able to update. So right here, we're just gonna put one box layout. Then we're gonna give it a size int x of none, and our width is going to be self.height. So this is going to be a square, right? So it's going to be 40 display pixels wide, since our height is set to 40 display pixels. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy this up onto here. Then navigate to tables.py. Inside here, I'm just gonna paste it here. Okay, I'm just gonna select it. Shift tab it 3 times. Right here, let's put these signs. Then inside here, let's our table. Let's just call it projects tab, like this. And let's give it a size int y. Let's give it a size int y of 50 display pixels, like this. We're gonna leave the padding, the spacing like that. Since we're gonna be using this tab to update, right? So we're gonna give this some pattern behavior. So here, let's add some on press functionality, right? So this one's gonna happen when we press the tab. So on press, we're just gonna say root dot we don't have the function yet, but we're gonna call it update underscore callback, and it's gonna pass in self, like this, right? So here we have this line underneath, so we're gonna maintain this line. But what we're gonna do here is excuse me, we want to make sure that for all our tables, right, they gonna they're gonna have alternating colors, right? One is going to be white, other one is going to be a light gray, right? So that our table doesn't look too plain. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this, paste it one more time. Then the one on top, I'm just gonna change this to root dot bg underscore color, right? So we don't have this function yet, this variable yet, but we're gonna put it in the bottom part on the Python code part of the projects tab. So in terms of size, you need to get rid of everything here. Just leave self.size like this. Okay. So for this label, let's get rid of bold and this gray color, like this. So since we made this tab 50 display pixels in height, right, we cannot leave self.height here. So since our table and our headers are not going to be aligned, so we need to get rid of self.height here and set it to 40 display pixels, like this. Then this needs to be root dot status. This is going to be root dot end underscore date. This is going to be root dot start underscore date. This is going to be root dot description, like this, and this needs to be root dot name. So let me just copy this, then you can create the class at the bottom here. So here we're gonna say class, then we're gonna paste our projects tab name here, and this is gonna, excuse me, since we made this clickable, right, we need to add our pattern behavior and our box layout, like this. So the first thing, right, let's look at our create.py file here. We have ID, right? So we're gonna need that when we are updating. We're not gonna need the user ID for this one, so we're not gonna add this. So let me just copy this here, then paste it here. Uh, I was thinking I was saving time, but I just meant this way harder for myself. Okay, now we're gonna need user ID. So here we're gonna say ID like this. ID, name, description, start date, end date, status. Um, we're gonna need our update callback. Let me duplicate this and this becomes delete callback, like this. So our ID, let's make it a string property, right? Let's put an underscore here, since ID is a protected word, right? So let's put an underscore here. So this is going to, let's just make it a string property. So I'm gonna copy this, then paste it here, here, and here. So let's get rid of this comma here. So this string property is going to be coming from Kivy.properties, right? So if you're using this template folder, we already have it imported here. But if you don't have it imported, you're just gonna say from Kivy.properties import string property. So for our callbacks, we're gonna need an object property. Just gonna import it from there. If we're gonna use figures, right? Figures that we don't have to use as strings, we're gonna use a numeric property here. So here, let's add our object property. So here we're gonna say object property, put parentheses. Then inside, we're just gonna say allow none, so that if you don't have a callback to this, nothing is gonna happen. We're not gonna get any errors. So this is going to be true. So let me copy this, then paste it here like this, right? So I believe our projects tab is fine for now. So let's just do that real quick for stuff tab, right? So let's look at stuff. Where do we have stuff? Okay, right here. So let me copy this. Let me put a line of hashtags so that it acts as a separation. Okay. So this is going to be stuff tab. Okay, let's look at our table. So here we have name, email, password, and role, right? So name, email, password, and role, right? So we're not gonna need status, so let's get rid of it. Okay, so let's copy this here. Let's add a line of separators here, just add a line of hashtags, right? So let's paste this here. Let's change this to staff tab. So here we already have a name, right? So this needs to be email. We don't need to display our password here, so let's make this raw. So not gonna need these two here. So let's get rid of them. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to navigate to projects.py, right? To make things easier, right? Let me just minimize this real quick. Let's open login.py. Right? Okay, let's move this here. So what we need to do is we're gonna okay, let me just copy everything from here to here, right? Navigate to projects.py and paste it here, right? Let me import this. So this is a warning pop-up, and you need to import this connection, right? So this connection is is inside this data folder, inside this connection.py. So this is just returning the connection part, nothing more, nothing less, right? So let's minimize this, close this, and let's import it from data.connection.connection, right? Let's get rid of this line here. Need to import our JSON. So here we actually needed this get user ID line, all right. Mostly that's the one we really needed because before we fetch our project from our database, right, we need to use the user ID so that we fetch the right project list, right? Excuse me. So let's import this user ID. So this is going to come from our Kivy.properties, right? Import numeric properties. So what we're going to need here is a list property also, right? So let's change this to, let's open projects.kv. Okay, we have this, right? So let me copy this from here. Where do we, okay, here, projects, right? So right here, I'm going to paste this here. Then I'm going to say it's equal to a list property, right? So let's put parentheses here. We're not going to need stuff ID. Let's import this clock here. This is going to come from Kivy.clock, not Kivy.properties, right? We're not going to need these two here. So here we have our user ID, right? So we fetched our user ID. So what we need to do after we fetched our user ID is to get our projects, right? So here let's add, let me just control D, control C this here. Then here I'm going to say self dot show underscore, then paste this, add parentheses, right? Control D, control C. So let's paste this here, right? And here we need to say select all from projects, where user ID is goes to percentage S, right? This is to avoid SQL injections, right? So after we've done that, let's look at our projects table here. So we're gonna have name. Let me just copy this, then paste it here. This needs to be inside quotes. Same with this one and this one, and this one, like this. So let me get rid of this. Here let's just say x0, right? That's not the right index number, right? But I'm just gonna do this so that I can just make everything okay here, get rid of these red lines. Then we're gonna put the right index numbers afterwards. Okay, so let's hit comma here. We don't really need to put a comma at the end, right? So let's get rid of this text. We don't need it. So this is going to be 2. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is going to be a string. This is going to be a string. This is going to be like date format. Same with this one. This is going to be a string. But let's just make sure everything is a string. So that, because since when we're creating our stuff, we're just gonna copy this and paste it in there. Let's just make everything a string. Okay. So let's move this one upwards, right? So now we need to say self dot, what did we call this one? Projects in DB, right? So what we're gonna do here is whenever we try to show our projects, like the projects inside our database, right? We're gonna set this project in DB variable, list variable here, right? We're gonna set it to empty. Because what we're trying to do here is whenever we display our information, right, we're gonna send it to this variable, right? And whenever this list variable is disturbed, that's when it's gonna load the information. So if it's set to 0 to empty, it's gonna get rid of the information first, right? So first thing it's gonna do is set itself to empty, so that we're not gonna add more information, the same information on top of the other one, right? So you're gonna set it to empty before we do anything. Then after setting it to empty, then we're gonna fetch our projects, right? Using our user ID. Then here we need to say let's just call it projects in DB. Like this. Then this needs to be pasted like this, but this one needs to be self, right? So this self.projects in DB and these projects in DB are two different variables, right? So this one is this one here, right? So let me put a dot here. But this one is this one here, right? Let me get rid of this line here. Okay. So now, right, if we have stock inside our database, right, we've sent it to this project in DB, this self-built projects in DB, right? So to display our information now, what we need to do is we need to say define on projects underscore in underscore DB like this. So it's gonna take in self, right? Then it's gonna take in instance. Then it's gonna take in projects underscore in underscore DB, right? So what we're gonna do, right? Once we've disturbed these software projects in DB, right? Each variable in Kivy in Python, right? It has a callback to it. So where there's a button, it's a label. You can add a callback to it. So what we're gonna do is on that variable, right? We're gonna disturb it. Then we're gonna be able to call it. So once it's disturbed, right? We're gonna call this function here. So to make sure that let's say we have information already displayed, right? To make sure that we don't get to duplicate information and whatnot, right? We need to clear the table. So here let's just put a variable now. I usually call this table, so I'm just gonna call it table. Then I'm gonna say soft.ideas dot. Let me navigate to projects.kv, copy it, paste it here, right? Do here is say table dot clear underscore widgets like this, so that we make sure that we don't have anything here before we try to add any information, right? Now we've done this, right? What we're gonna do here is gonna say for raw underscore index, then we're gonna say comma, let's put x here, then we're gonna say enumerate parentheses. So what are we going to enumerate? Let's take this projects.db, right? Then paste it here, right? So after we do this, right, we need to say color here. We're just gonna say RGBA. Let's put 6 Fs. So this is white, right? Let's import this. need to import this from Kivy.utils like this. So if you're putting it in manually, right, it's gonna appear like from Kivy.utils import RGBA. So what we need to do here is we need to put a new statement, right? So we're gonna say if raw index, right? So we're gonna divide using the modulus operator, right? So let's divide it by 2. So we're gonna say if the raw index divided by 2 is equal to 0, right? If you're using the modulus operator, right, we need to check, we only get the remainder, right? So if the remainder is 0, we're gonna set the background to white. Then we're gonna say else if it's not set to 0, if it's not 0, if it's 1 or any other number, right? We're gonna set this to, let's say, RGBA, parentheses, let's put quotes. Let's say F9, F9, F9. So this is like a very light gray color, right? So if, let's just go through this, right? So our color variable, right? This is we're gonna set this, let's open our tables to Py, right? We forgot to add this, right? So let me just do this. Control D. We called it bg underscore color equals, this is going to be a color property. Let's put parentheses and import it. So it's inside our Kivy properties, right? Let's go back to projects.py. So we're gonna set this color to a background color, right? So if this returns 0, the background color is going to be white. But if it returns any number which is not 0, the background color is going to be a very light gray color, right? So after doing this, let's go back to tables.py, right? And let's fetch this here. Project.py, and let's paste it here. Tab it. We need to tab it. Yeah, twice is enough. So here, right, we need to create a variable which we're gonna say, we're gonna call table row, right? And our table row widget is our projects tab. So let's put parentheses here and let's import it. So it's inside our widgets.tables file, right? So let me Control D, Control C this, then do this here. Right arrow, paste it, add a dot. Like this. So now what we need to do, right? Let's scroll upwards. I'm just gonna copy this. Then paste this here. This needs to be color here. And this here, we're just gonna get rid of this number here. And we're gonna put our calls, right? So this is going to be ID. This is going to be name. This is going to be description. Like this. Start date, end date, and this is going to be on this, right? For this year, right, we don't have these functions yet. So what we need to do, okay, first let's say table dot add widget, and the widget we're gonna add is table row, right? So For us to avoid getting any errors for these two here, right, let's just create some variables real quick. So the first one is going to be define, let's open projects.kv. Where's our custom button? Okay, right here. So we need this function name here. So let's paste it. It's going to take in self. Here we're just going to say pass for now, right? So let's duplicate it like this. So this is going to be update. But this one is going to take in instance, right? It's going to take in instance of this table or like the whole widget and the information inside of it so that we can use it to update, right? So here we're just going to say instance, then pass, right? So now let's add these here. So this needs to be self dot. So let's say open, let's paste this one and let's change this one to this one. So we need to get rid of parentheses, right? So that whenever we display the projects tab, right, we don't run this open add model. Same with this one, so that we can only run these two after we've clicked the projects tab and the delete button, right? Save this. Navigate. Let's navigate to widgets.py, right? So right here we need to add our MD icon button. So let's change this to float layout, right? And we need to add an MD icon button here. Let's navigate to home.kv. So I'm just gonna copy this. Then paste it. So the icon here, let's say delete outline. Then the color, we're just gonna say FF, then put 4 6s, right? So this is going to be like a light red color, right? And this needs to be delete callback. Then we're gonna pass in root year. So let me copy this. Then paste this here. Like this. Okay, so let's look at our projects.py real quick. I believe this should be fine. So let's run it. Okay, moment of truth. So here we have our projects displayed here, right? Okay. So what we can do, right? We can reduce the size of these three, right? Maybe give this 10 10%, 10%, 10%. Then we can have these this one takes in 20%, then this one takes in the rest of the space available, right? So let's minimize it. We just leave it like that, right? So now let's work on adding our projects, right? So to add, right, let's navigate to our widgets folder, right? We need our models.py. So in here we have notifications model and project model, right? Let's add some separation here. Okay, paste this here. Let me duplicate this line here. Okay, so I'm gonna put it here. So what I'm gonna do here is I was gonna call it projects model, right? Um okay, let me just say add project model like this, right? We're gonna need tables.py. Then you scroll downwards. Let me just copy. Let me just copy everything. Paste it here, right? So we're not gonna need this bg color property variable thing here. Let's get rid of one of these, like this. Let's just call this callback. Like this. Let's call this one close, like this. So let's get rid of this ID here, right? Like this. So we have name, description, start date, end date, status, close, callback, right? So let's set the function at the bottom of our add project model, right? So here we're just gonna say define on. So we're doing the same thing we did to add our, what do we call it, our projects to our table, right? So here we're just gonna say on close, like on this variable, right? So when this variable is disturbed, so we're gonna say on close, we're gonna take in self instance and that close variable. Then we're gonna say self dot dismiss, and let's put parentheses. So we wanna make sure that whenever we're doing something, right, when we're adding, so when we fetch the information, right, we populate this close variable, then the model closes, right? So we don't have to manually close it. We will in the user interface, right? So if we navigate to our widgets folder and we open, I think let's try text field, right? So here we have custom text field. We have custom text field int, so we can enter numbers or numbers. Then custom text field float, where we can enter decimal numbers. Then we have custom field password, where we can add a password. It has a view password, hide password button. Then we have custom text field large, where we can enter things like description. Then we okay, so we have those only, right? Okay, so let's work on our projects, right? We might need to create a drop down for this status part, right? So we're just gonna create a custom drop down button for this. Okay, so let's go back to where do we have models, right? So we're not gonna need tables for now, so let's get rid of this text field. Let's get rid of it. We're not gonna need login.py. Okay, so we have models.py. So what we need to do is let's first create this add project model inside our Kivy code, right? So let's put it down here. Let's scroll up. I need to copy this. Uh, okay, let's paste this here. So let me just scroll and look at our notifications part. I just want to check something real quick, right? So this one is 500 display pixels, right? So what we can do, right? Let's give this MB label an ID, and we're just gonna call this let's call it model title, like this, right? And the text here, we're just gonna say add project. since we're going to be using one model view to add and update our projects, right? So giving this MD label and ID gives us the opportunity to, if we're updating, we can use the ID to update the text to update project, right? So when we're adding the text, we just say add project. Okay. Then what we need to do is we need to add a text field so that we can add a name, description, start date, end date, and status, right? Okay, let's navigate to this box layout, right? So in most cases, right, um, some people have larger screens and some have smaller screens, right? So the best thing we can do is we can add a scroll view. Then inside the scroll view, we can add a grid layout. Same thing we did when we were creating our projects, like here at the bottom right. So we can actually just copy this, then paste it here, right? So if someone has a large enough screen, right, they're going to be able to see our custom text fields, right? So that they can enter the project's name, description, start date, end date, project status, right? But if someone has a smaller screen, right, they don't have to worry about the widgets getting smooth, or you can even see them on the screen. You just have to be able to scroll up and fill in whatever information you need, right? So that's why we're gonna add a scroll view here and the grid layout. So inside here, we don't need this ID here. So after doing this, right, if you look at the create.py file here, right, when I need a name and a description, right? So we called our custom widgets, right? We had a custom text field. So you're just gonna say custom text field, right? And I believe it already has a height set to it. So let me just check real quick. Okay. So it already has a height set to it. So it's gonna take in an icon, label. Okay. So here we're just gonna give this custom text field an ID, and our ID is going to be name, right? Then we're gonna give it an icon. So let's use that briefcase outline icon, right? Let me just look at the home real quick. I believe it's in buttons. Let's get rid of all. Uh, yeah, the thing we're looking for is inside home.kv, and I just closed it. Where's home.kv, or is it home.py? Okay, briefcase outline. Here's the icon I'm looking for, right? Where do we have models? Right here. So let's press the icon here, like this. Then this is gonna take in a label, right? And this is going to be, let's just say, project name, like this. Then let's give this some in text. So here let's just say project name dot dot dot. Then you will just say name, like this, right? Then we'll look at description. So if when we were looking at textfield.py file, right? So we had the custom textfield magic widget. So let's use it here. Then here we just say large. This needs to be description, the label, description, Let's put a capital letter D at the start here. Then here let's say not dash tab. Then here we're just gonna say project description like this. We don't have do we have a custom date picker somewhere? Let's look at buttons.py. We have a drop down widget list, drop down widget, custom drop down. We don't have a date custom date picker. So we need to create a custom date picker real quick, right? So that we can create the start date and end date so that we don't have to like manually code everything twice. And whenever we're gonna need a date and time and whatnot, we don't have to like manually do it every time. So for now, let's put this widget for status, right? Excuse me. Models. So right here, we have a custom drop down inside our buttons.py, right? So here, let's put it here. So here, let's say custom drop down, right? And let's give it an ID. So our ID is status. So let's put it here. Then let's give it an icon. Which icon can we use for status now? Okay, let's leave the icon part empty. Then we'll think of something as we go on. We're gonna need a label. Let's just say status. So we're not let's add some text, right? Of course, this is not a text field, so we can't add any hint text. But what we can do is we can add some text to it. And then we say select projects status, right? Then we need to have some choices. So this is more like values, right? But when I was creating the custom widget, I just felt like saying choices instead of values, just to add a little bit of difference from Kivy spinner, right? But the way you just set the choices, the same way you set up your values when you're using a Kivy spinner, right? So for status, right? Excuse me. Let me just scroll downward and open our right. So here we have in progress, not started. Let's minimize this. So here you can say in progress, and the other one was not started. Let's add cancelled. What's the other one we can use? Let's say on dash hold, right? So if you have any other ones better choices to put here, you just put them, right? Okay. So okay, before we let's do something first. Here let's add an MD label. Let's give it an ID. We're just gonna call this error, right? Then let's give it a size in Y of none and some height of let's say 25 display pixels, right? Let's give this some font style. The font style we're gonna use here is Lego. Then raw, we're gonna set it to small. Then let's give this some color. Since it's an error, right? It's gonna display error messages. So let's make it red. Then let's align the text to the center. So each line is going to be center like this, right? Then let's say the custom flood button, right? So it's inside our buttons to pirate. So it's the same one we used when we were creating our logi screen, right? But we just tweaked it a little bit, added some shadow, and we made the edges rounder, right? So that it looks like a pill. Okay. So here, let's give it an ID, right? Reason we're giving this an ID is whenever we are adding, the text is gonna say add. But whenever we are updating, the text is going to change to updating. So we're going to use the ID to change the text right here, right? So that's why we're giving this an ID. So here, let's just call it model button like this. Then here we're going to say sizing underscore y. We're going to set this to none. And our height, let's set it to 40 display pixels like this. Then the text. So whenever we're adding, the text is going to be add like this. Then let's add an on press, right? So whenever we press this button, we must call root dot callback. Then we're gonna pass in root like this. Let's navigate to projects.py. Okay, so here on open add model, right? Let's get rid of this pass here. Then here, let's close a variable. So we're just gonna call this add model, right? Then this is going to be add project model, right? It imported a whole thing from us. So we're just gonna for us, right? So we're just gonna say from widgets.models import project model right here. Then here we're gonna say add underscore model dot callback. It's going to be let's create a function, just gonna call it we're just gonna call it add underscore project, right? Then here we're gonna say add model dot open, right? So that we can open the model. So let's just create this function real quick. So this gonna take in self and instance, right? Then inside here, we're just gonna say pass. So let me add some hashtags here, right? So that we can separate our functions, right? So let's paste this here and here and here, right? So let's run this and see if we don't have any errors. Okay, where do we have our projects? So let's click this. Here we have our button, right? So we need to reduce the size of this thing. So let's minimize this. Open models. So let's give this grid layout some spacing. So let's give it some spacing of let's put 20 display pixels. First, if it's too much, we're gonna update it, right? The other thing we can do is give this some padding, right? So let's run it again. When I'm seeing some padding, but I can see the spacing. Did I change the text here? Didn't. Okay, let's scroll upwards. Right. So um so here we're gonna say size int underscore x. We're gonna set this to none, and the width, um let's set it to uh, let's try 500 display pixels to start. Let's try 400. Let's run this. Okay. um I need to have an icon for this part. Okay, so here we have our options, right? Okay, this is how it looks when we maximize the screen, right? Ah, let's give this a size into Y. I want to see something, right? I want to see if we can push this one to the center here. Custom text field large. Let's put it underneath the ID here. Right. So here we're gonna say size underscore int y. We're gonna set this to none, and our height, let's set it to 70 display pixels. Like this. Then we need to work on this start date end date part, right? We need to create this custom widget. Let's open buttons.py, right? Let's scroll downwards. Then right here, let's create our custom date picker and custom time picker, right? So class, let's just say custom date picker, right? It's gonna need some pattern behavior and a box layout. Then excuse me, here we should have a label, and it's gonna be a string property. Duplicate this, and this needs to be text like this, right? Let me copy this and put it here so that it adds some separation, right? So now that we have a label and the text, right? Um, what we need here, we're gonna say define open underscore date underscore picker, right? And it's gonna take in self, right? So let's create a variable and just call it date picker, right? And it's going to be an MD model date picker, right? And let's put parentheses here. Then here we're gonna say date picker dot bind. So what are we binding? We're gonna bind on underscore okay to self dot on date okay on underscore date underscore okay. So we don't have these just yet, right? Save it. So let me copy this, paste it one more time. Then this one is going to be on date cancel, like this. Let's create the first function now. So here when I say define, let me just copy it and paste it. on date. Okay, right. So it's gonna take in self and the instance of our date picker, right? So when I say instance date underscore picker like this, then excuse me, when I say self dot, so we're gonna create this label. We're gonna create the KV stuff in a minute, right? So for now, let's just work on the Python code stuff side first. Then we're gonna go and create the KV side of it, the KV logic for it. So here when I say self.its, right? So for a date picker, right, let's just say the MD label, let's just call it date. So here's gonna be date.text is equal to a string of our instance dot it this should be get date if I'm not mistaken. Should be let's put parentheses, square brackets, then 0, right? If it doesn't work, we can always fix it. So what we need to do now is after we selected our date, right, we need to close the custom date picker. So here we need to call the instance. We're just gonna say instance date picker dot dismiss like this. This should allow us to close the date picker, right? So let me copy this, paste it down here, get rid of this line. This needs to be on date cancel like this, right? So now we can let's say we don't want we just close the instance, right? Let's see what's with this one. Leave it and works like that. For our we might need a custom time picker, right? So let's just copy this and paste it down here, right? And let's change this to time. This here needs to be time. Let's copy this. Okay, this is going to be time like this, and this needs to be time picker dot time, and we need to change this to MD. I think it's time picker vertical, the IO vertical, like this one. I believe custom time picker and date picker are fine. So now we need to do the KV logic part, right? To design it, to create the UI. Okay, so let's create the first one, right? Custom date picker, right? Um, yeah, let's say background underscore normal. Let me just scroll upwards, right? And copy everything here, right? Like this. You need to add an on press here. So here we're gonna say underscore on press. Um, what are we gonna call? So I believe the function was dot open date underscore picker like this. so that when we click on the custom date picker, right, we can open the date picker. Uh, this like this, right? Um, let's see. Okay, let's proceed. So here, let's say the box layout, and I'm just going to copy this, paste it here, then type this inside. You need to change the color to white, so I'm gonna put 6 Fs, right? Then inside this box layout, I'm gonna put a float layout. Because if we look at what do we have it, add project, right? Um Here we have an icon, right? Then we're gonna have a label here and some text, right? So I'm trying to simulate this right here, and I'm gonna change this radius to 20 display pixels instead of 5, right? So that it matches this one here and this one here, and everything just appears uniform, right? So I'm trying to create this format here where we have an MD icon, which it's going to be a float layout, and when I have another one here, then you're gonna have a box layout with your vertical orientation. Then the top part we're gonna put then the lower part is going to be like where we're gonna display our date, right? Okay, so let's minimize this. So here the float layout here, right? We're gonna say size int x, and when I set this to none, then the width is going to be self dot height like this, right? Then inside we need to put an MD icon. So the icon here, right? Um, for the date picker, let's just put a calendar like this. Then theme text color, I'm gonna make it custom. Then the color, we're just gonna make it black, right? So theme text color is going to be custom like this. Then our text color is going to be, I say hashtag, then put 6 zeros, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, like this, right? Then let's give this a position int. So pause underscore int. This needs to be inside our curly braces, right? The first one is going to be center x, right? So this is going to be 0.5. So which means we're gonna position this at the center of our screen, right? Then let's put center y. So center y is gonna position we're gonna set it to 0.5, right? And that is positioning our icon at the 50% of our screen going vertically. So 50% going horizontally and 50% going vertically, right? It positions the MD icon at the center of our float layout, right? So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna copy this, then paste it down here. And this one we're gonna change it to chevron dash down like this, right? Then the color here, let's change it to AD8A8C, right? So it's going to be like gray color. So between these two float layouts, we need to add a box layout. And we're gonna give this box layout an orientation of vertical. Like this, right? To give this some spacing, let's not give this some spacing, but let's give it some padding. So here when I say padding, so the left and right padding, you're just gonna set it to 0, right? And the top and bottom padding, we're gonna set it to 2.5 display pixels, like this. So inside this box layout, we need to put two box layouts, right? So the first one is going to have a size int y. Let's set it to none. Let's scroll upwards. I want to check something here, right? So I should have just copied this widget, right? So let me just copy everything from year to year. This, okay. Then this MD label. Okay. This needs to be date, like this. Let's see. So I'm gonna copy everything here like this. Then paste it underneath. Change this to time. Where's our icon? Let's change this calendar icon to clone dash outline, like this. What else? This needs to be custom time picker, right? So now we can go back to model.py and we can add our start date and end date here. Okay, so here it's underneath our description, right? So we start date, end date. So right here, we're gonna put our custom date picker, right? So let's just put them here. Then we're gonna import these custom widgets inside our init.py file. So let's give this an ID. So the first ID is start date, right? Then the label, okay. Let's just say start date dot, right? So let's duplicate this, and this needs to be end date. So we have the text, right? Let's just leave it empty. Like we don't select a date, it's just empty, right? So that we can just use it whenever we're doing form validation inside our projects.py, right? We can just say if it's empty, and it's gonna tell us to fill in the required fields. Then we can be able to select our date or whatever. So now let's try running it and see if we can select our dates. Okay, projects, add project. So you have start date and end date, right? So let's click this. This is not working. Okay. Let's check buttons.py, right? So this needs to be open time picker, right? For the time variable. Open time picker. So here we forgot to say time picker dot open, right? And here we need to say date open. So let's put parentheses and run this again. Okay, project, add project, right? Okay, here's our date, here's our end date, like this. Now we need to make this rounded, like 20 display pixels rounded. Same with this one, right? Okay, if you maximize it, it's looking okay, right? So let's fix this real quick. We do drop down, drop down, drop down. Let's just do this. Okay. Custom drop down, right? Here let's do this dp parentheses, then 20 inside parentheses, right? Custom drop down list. Let's do the same. Okay. Drop down widget and drop down leave this one. Custom flood button, leave this one. Custom button. So now we need text fields, right? Let's select text field.py. This needs to be dp 20, close it. Let's do this one. Load. Okay. This should fix no problem. So I'll just run it. Okay, so everything is formatted uniformly, right? Everything is looking okay. Why is this not filled out properly, right? Minimize this. Okay, so let me see if I can just select this. dp parentheses, close parentheses, run it again. Okay, now everything is looking okay. This one is fixed, this one is not. So this is the large one, right? So we need custom text field large. Okay, it is. Okay, this should be fine now. So let's navigate to models. Excuse me. Let's scroll down here, right? So what we need to do is right here, right? We need to make sure that whenever we call this head project model, right? Let's say when we're updating, we're not updating now, right? We just gonna do the logic now, then we're gonna work on adding and updating and deleting just in one call, right? So here what we need to do is whenever the name variable is disturbed, right? Let's say we call the add project model when updating, right? So you're gonna say define on underscore name, right? So it's gonna take in self instance of that name variable and the and the variable, right? Like the information inside of it. So what we need to do here is we should change the text on our flat button, right, from add to update, and we need to change the title, like the MD label. We give an ID of model title, so we need to change that to update project, right? Because it's for now it's add project. So right here we need, first things first, we just gonna say self dot ideas dot name dot. So since this is a custom widget, right? Um, the ID we gave it inside our add project model, right? We gave it an ID of name, right? So the name is the ID of the container, the main container. But for us to access the custom text field inside of it, we need to call the ID, and text field inside of it, it is an ID of text input. So it's text underscore input dot text, and the text is going to be name, right? Like this. Now, after doing this, right, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So let's just take this, paste it, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Then underneath the first one, right, we need to update our model title and our model pattern text, right? So here let's say self.ideas dot model underscore title dot text is going to be update project, like this. Let's duplicate it. So this one is going to be button, right? And the text is going to be update, like this, right? So this one, let's copy this. Description. Then this one needs to be on start date. So for our start dates, we don't need this one. Let's do the same for this one. End date. So for this, we don't gonna need a text input also, like this, right? Then the last one is status, right? Um, we're not gonna need text input, but if you need it, we're just gonna put it back, right? So for now, this should be fine, and we can go to projects.py, then start working on adding our projects, like new projects inside our database, right? So let's click projects.py right here, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna copy this here, then edit here, right? Get rid of this, right? So For us to call, like, let's say if these were inside our project.kv, just say self we call it name, right? And since we're using custom widgets, we say dot ideas dot text underscore input dot text, right? But this is not inside our project.kv. It's inside our add projects model, right? So we're not gonna use self, we're gonna use instance here. So let's replace self here with instance, right? So for now, I'm just gonna copy this, paste this here, 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 and here, right? Let's change this like this. So like this, right? So I don't think we're gonna need text input here. So let's get rid of this. But for start date and end date, we're gonna replace text input with date like this. And then excuse me. For now, to see if what you call it, we can get information here, right? And we don't have any errors. We're just gonna say print. What's the first one? Name. Right. I could have put everything in one line, but anyways, let me just do it this way. Then this one is going to be status, right? So let's run it. Let's open projects, add random information, start date, okay, end date, status, or hold, right? So let's press add. And let's minimize this. So we're getting all the information, right? Which means we call the variables and everything we call them correctly, right? So let's start our form validation. So here I'm just gonna say if name is empty, right? Or description is empty, or start date is empty, or end date is empty, or status is what do we call status? Let's put dot here. Like this. So if it's empty, right? Let's get rid of all this stuff here. When I say instance dot ideas dot error, right? This needs to be dot text. So let's just keep it simple and say filling or required fields like this, right? Then here we're gonna say else. If it's not empty, right? When I say instance dot close, right? We don't need to put parentheses here. When I say instance dot close, right? We're just gonna pass in close. We can just pass in a full stop. You just have to pass in something like a string, so anything that's a string to this variable so that it can close, right? So now let's go upwards to the top here, right? So right here, we're gonna need the a list variable we're gonna use to add, a list variable we're gonna use to update, and we're gonna have a variable we're gonna use to delete, which we're gonna set to none, right? So here we're gonna say self dot add project, which is going to be. So let me copy this and duplicate it 2 more times. The second one is going to be update project, right? And the third one is going to be delete project. So the delete project is not going to be an empty list, right? We're just gonna set this to none like this. So now let's go back downwards. So after closing our model, right, we need self dot add project, right? And we're gonna append name, description, start date, end date, and status, right? So after doing this, right, we need to add a confirmation pop-up, right? So it's gonna ask us, are we sure we want to add this project, right? If we press yes, we're gonna add the project. If we press no, we're not gonna add anything, right? But we still close our model, right? So let's copy this function, right? Just gonna uh, create a variable with the same name as our function, right? So it's not gonna do anything like having this function name and a variable name having the same name, right? It's not gonna have any effects. So let's just press this, and if we navigate to our widgets folder, right? Let's minimize the wrong app. We have these pop-ups.py file, right? We have a warning pop-up and a confirmation pop-up, right? So we're gonna use this confirmation pop-up. Let's look. Okay, so the height of this is 40 display pixels. The height of this is 30. This needs to be 40. Okay, so let's copy this. So it's gonna need a title and a callback. Okay, so here it's confirm pop-up, right? So if you're importing it manually, right, it's from widgets.popups import confirm pop-up, right? So right here when I say add project dot title, so this is going to be you sure you want to add this project? Let's go to question mark, right? Then here when I say add project dot callback, so here when I say self dot control Z, let's copy this, then paste it, then underscore callback like this. So we're not gonna put parentheses here so that we can only run it after clicking the yes, right? So if you put parentheses here, this is going to be ran before we even give it the green light to run or cancel, right? So then down here we need to say add project dot open, right? So that we can open our confirm pop-up, right? So now we're gonna need our callback, right? The function that we're gonna run after we say yes to adding a project, right? So this is gonna take in self and say star odds like this, right? So here, right, what I'm gonna, let me just copy these here and paste them here. Let me minimize this so that we can have more of this screen real estate to work with, right? we need to get rid of this, and this has to be, remember we had this self.add project, right? So now we're gonna self.add project, right? So let me just copy this and paste it here. Okay, so this here, right, our name was the first one, so this is going to be at index 0. Now we need to get rid of the extra equal signs. Okay, then our description was at index 1, start date index 2, end date index 3, state 4, like this, right? So after doing this, right, we should have a try block, so that if we're not connected to the database, our system is not gonna crash. If there's an error in our SQL syntax, it's gonna alert us, but it's not gonna crash the system, right? So here we need to say con, right, for connection, right? So our connection, we're gonna get it from connection here, right? So we already imported this when we were fetching our projects from our database, right? So here we're gonna say cursor is going to be con.cursor, like this, right? Let me scroll upwards and copy this. Dang, man, a baby's crying sound. It's loud it's loud. Eh. Okay, so now let's get rid of this inside here. Nice. So here we need to say SQL, and so this is going to be our SQL statement. So here we need to say insert into projects, right? So let's pull up parentheses here. Let me just select this, paste it in here, right? Then I'm gonna say values parentheses. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So which means we need um so we have one, we need 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. So let's put the extra, remove the extra comma, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like this. Then now we're gonna need values, right? These are the info, the values we're gonna add like inside our name, description, start date, and whatnot, right? So we can just copy this, paste it here like this. Then after doing this, we need to say cursor dot execute. So we're gonna execute our SQL statement and our values, right? Then we need to commit so that we can save the information to our database like this. Then after doing that, we need to say self dot it's show projects in DB, right? So that after editing, we can refresh, then see the projects we had already and the new one, right? So let's run this and see if this works. Projects, start date. So let's add. Okay, this works. So project name. Let's say UI design. I don't have a good name coming to my mind right now. So they just say I'm designing the user interface from scratch. Start date, let's select today's date. End date, let's say it ends on the 11th of August, right? Status, um, not started, right? So let's add. Are you sure we want to add this project? Yes. Okay. We added, but did we? Maybe this wasn't code. Let's rerun it and see. Well, if we added something, so we didn't add something, right? I see. Um, we should be able to add user ID, right? So we might as well add it, right? But whenever we were fetching the information, we didn't fetch it because we didn't add this user ID. So let me copy this, paste it here, right? Then at the start here, we're just gonna say self dot user ID, right? Oh, over. Okay. So we need to put back name here like this. So let me redo it. Re-add the project. Okay. Add project name. Let's say design Tanaka's UI. Start date. It starts tomorrow on the 5th. Okay. End date. It ends on the 11th. Okay. Status. Not started since it's starting tomorrow, right? So let's add. Not all parameters were used, right? Okay. So we added this here, but we didn't add this here. Okay. Let's run it again. Projects. Let's say the project, right? So we said, let's just say Tanaga's UI, right? Description, designing better UI for Tanaga Limited, right? Start date starts on the 5th. End date is it ends on the 11th. Okay. Status not started. So let's add this. Are you sure we want to add this project? Yes. Okay. So now we have this Tanaka's UI, right? What we can do is as you can see, like we have these different colors, right? So this worked. Let's increase the size of this to like 70 or something. Minimize this. Where do we have tables.py? Okay. Projects tab. This is 50. Let's up this to 70. Run it again. Project. Okay. This is looking much better. Right. So this do delete real quick because this is going to be an easier one, right? Then after doing delete, then we're gonna deal with updating, right? Projects.py. So right here, let's put another line of hashtags. Okay, so let's create a function and we're just gonna call it delete underscore project. And taking self and instance. right? So here we're gonna say self dot we call that one delete project, right here. So what we need to do is we need to pass in our ID, right, so that we can delete using the project ID, right? Since the ID is going to be unique for every project, right? So here we need to say instance dot ID. So I believe let's look at tables.py, right? So the ID is an underscore here, right? So we need to do like that, right? So we can fetch that ID and pass it on to self.delete project, right? So now what we need is a confirm pop-up, right? So let's scroll upwards. I'm just gonna copy this line here, then paste it here. Shift table it once like this. Then we need to change this to, are you sure you want to delete this project like this, right? And this needs to be delete project callback, right? So we don't have this here. Let me just do this so that we can have some space to work with. So down here, when I say define delete underscore project underscore callback, right? Okay. So this is going to take in self and star args, right? Like this. So the first thing we need to do is we need to say ID underscore, right? It's going to be self dot delete project, right? Since we passed the ID to self delete project. So now if we confirm with the confirm pop-up, right, we're gonna fetch the ID and pass it on to this ID here, right? So let's scroll up and copy this here and paste it here, right? So right here we're only gonna need our ID underscore, right? Like this. So let's get rid of everything else like this, right? So here we just let's just get rid of everything. So here we're just gonna say delete from projects where ID is equal to percentage s, right? So now we're able to delete, right? So what we need to do is we need to add this callback, right here, like this, and this here needs to be this one, right? So let's try deleting one of our projects. Okay, let's delete the last one we added. Are you sure you want to delete this project? Yes. Okay, so we are successfully deleted, right? So now let's just work on updating real quick. So right here, let's open tables, right? Okay, so let's look at open add mode, right? So let's just copy this here, then paste it right here. So let's take these two, the ones at the end of our update model, right? Cut them and paste them here. Then we need to copy this. Paste these here like this. So this needs to be update project like this. So we don't have the function yet. We're gonna create it in a minute. Let's change this to update model like this. Right. Let's scroll upwards. Okay, this is fine. What we need to do, right? We need to say, let's copy Control D, select these, right? And just pass in instance dot like this, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna select this here, Control D, and paste it here, right? We're not gonna need this one. Okay, paste it here, Control D, Control C, select here, Control V. Right. After doing this, right, you need to copy this here. And paste it here. So here we need to change this to update like this, right? We need to change this to update project callback like this, right? So to update, right, we're gonna need an ID, right? So here we're gonna say ID underscore is equal to instance dot ID underscore like this, right? So now we need to pass in this ID first, right? So we're gonna say ID underscore comma like this. So everything from year to year is gonna remain the same. This needs to change to update project like this. And this is going to be, are you sure you want to update this project, right? So let's duplicate this name here. So this here is going to be ID underscore, right? And this here needs to be update project, right? So let's change this to 1 since it's now at index 1, and this is 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? Okay. So now we need to say, let's get rid of this whole line here. So this is now going to be update project set name is equal to %s, right? So let me copy this here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need to paste it 4 more times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here we need to get rid of this self.user ID. And at the end here, after status, we need to add our ID underscore here. So this needs to be name. This needs to be description. This needs to be start date. And this needs to be end date. This needs to be status, right? So after status, we're gonna say where ID is equal to %s like this, right? So These should update, right? So let's run this and see how this looks. Okay. Select projects, click this. This should not be empty and this should be filled out. Um, as you can see, we can't see our it text, which means there's something inside here. So let's click it. Okay. So we have text here, right? Um, let's this one inside redesign improve existing company websites. Let's just put ASD, right? So this for test. But hey, let's not test it this way. Let's minimize this and let's open models.py first, right? Let's try upping this to, let's try 120 display pixels. Then we weren't seeing our status, right? So let's go downwards. I want to check something. Right? We need to get rid of this ITS here. So let's run it again. Now we should be able to update easily, right? Without having to select something. Like when you click here, right, everything should be filled up. Okay, now this is fine. This is filled up just fine. So let's change the end date to the 11th of August, right? Press OK. Then update. Okay, this is now the 11th. So let's click it. Okay, this is the 11th. Let's change the date here to today. Then this should be on hold, right? So let's update. Okay, so we've managed to add, update and delete our projects, right? So we're gonna end the video here. Then in the next video we're gonna work on stuff real quick, then move on to our projects, right? So if you need the template folder for everything we did, right, up from the start up until here, right, it's going to be in the video description. For now, like, subscribe, and stay tuned. I'll wait for the next one, right? Peace.